My name is Shadi Mohammed, and I'm going to do my presentation from a psychology, brain, and behavior class on the theories of color vision. But before discussing either of the two main theories of color vision, it's important to discuss the parts of the eye that are important for seeing color in the first place. With the first one being the retina, and that's where image processing begins in the eye. And cones are types of photoreceptors that are sensitive to light, and there's three main subtypes of them. So there are blue cones, there are green cones, and there are red cones. And photoreceptors in general are parts of the eye that help the person or the animal see and give an interpretation to what they're seeing. And there's two main types of photoreceptors. There are rods that are mainly used in seeing lightness and darkness, and cones that are mainly associated with seeing light. And the retinal glial cells are the uppermost layer of the eye, and they're very important to the second theory of color vision, which I'll discuss as we progress through the presentation. So the first theory of color vision is the trichromatic theory of color vision, and it states that essentially all the colors that we see are created from the combinations of the colors red, green, and blue. And as shown on the graph on the right, the different cones are responsive to different colors. So the different wavelengths, such as the shorter wavelengths, are mainly associated with the blue cone, while slightly longer wavelengths are seen by the green cone, and the longest wavelengths are seen by the red cones. So the opponent process theory, as the name suggests, it states that the colors that we see are in opposite base pairs. So if there is white, then the area around it is going to be black. And if there's red in the center, then it's going to activate when there's green in the surrounding areas, and so on and so forth with the various colors. And the ganglion cells I discussed in the first slide of my presentation are important to this theory because the off-center and on-center ganglion cells attach to cones, and then they help see the colors in opposite base pairs, which I'll discuss in the slide specifically. So, to briefly discuss both the on-center and ganglion cells and the off-center ganglion cells, they're going to activate at opposite areas. So, the on-center ganglion cells are going to activate when there is light in the center and darkness in the surrounding areas, and they're not going to activate if the opposite happens. While off-center ganglion cells, they're going to activate when there is darkness in the center and light in the surrounding areas, and if the opposite happens, so if there's light in the center and darkness in the surrounding areas, they're not going to work. And this is important to the specific slide because when color sensitive ganglion cells attach to cones, they're going to do the same thing for the opponent process theory. So if there is yellow in the center and blue in the surrounding areas, they're going to activate. And if the opposite happens, if there's blue in the center and yellow in the surrounding areas, they're also going to activate. And they do the same thing with colors that are in opposite base pairs. So if there's red in the center and green in the surrounding areas, they're going to activate, and vice versa if it happens. And it's important to note that neither theory of color vision is necessarily wrong or incorrect, and they're just different explanations that are given to us by scientists that help us understand how we perceive color and how we see color in general in our daily lives. And that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for your time. This is my works cited page.